Greetings, YouTubers. It's your buddy ChopTalk coming at you with an NBA and NHL version of ChopTalk brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports. MMA to PGA, we've got you covered all the way. 20 coaches, 40 staff, thousands of members talking DFS every day. Group thinking to make themselves better players and bring you along with them. You head down to the comments section to become a VIP. Click the link, DFSArmy.com. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for a 10% discount. Each month you remain a member. And what you need to do is run out to Twitter. Retweet my tweets. I'm asking for a little bit of help. Of course, I'm entering everybody that retweets my tweets into January sweeps. December was a great little kicker offer, and we're going to make January even better, but I can't do it without your help. In this case, I'm asking for you to caption this photo. No retweets, no comments makes me sad. Hulk sad. But if you caption this photo, the best answer is going to get entered twice. So I'm going to double dip for somebody. And right now, if you just answer it once, you're automatically the leader in the clubhouse. That's right. I don't take myself too seriously out on Twitter. Don't take myself too seriously. Inside DFS Army is a personality, but as a coach, I take myself very seriously. That's why I'm trying to spread the word, spread the love, and make this a better place. So hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Let's jump in to today's content, December 4th. We're going to start with the research station in NBA because it's the fastest, easiest way to break down a player pool. Very, very simply stated. In fact, I'm not even going to do much other than I will sort by descending order here just to bring them up to the top. Look at the overall depth. You know the system. Use the N1 system to click through all the different positions. Point guard, we're going to look for depth at the position. Only 3 or 4 guys in double digits here in the N1 rating system. So it doesn't look too deep as of yet. Shooting guard. A little deeper. Small forward. Not too deep, about like point guard. Power forward. And I don't see anything overwhelming at the top either like Anthony Davis. Yes, there's one. A little bit shallow position way up top with Josh Jackson of all players. Josh Jackson carries 17.2. If he's ended up getting the minutes today, if that's the projection, then there you go. Projected right now at 36 minutes. That's going to lead to a 6.3 value. Now, you may want to bring that back down to earth a little bit. You may want to run it as is. That's going to be up to you. But in a relatively scarce position and an affordable price, looks like Josh Jackson's going to be a very important play today. Now, of course, news breaks throughout the day. That changes things around a little bit. But as of right now, it looks very, very important. Down here, center looks deep. When we get a deep position, we look to pay down a little bit. So it looks like Miles Turner might be somebody that would be popping into some lives. 8 and chalk, 8 and chalk, 8 and chalk. We already saw a couple players announced out that are going to lead to DeAndre Ayton. That chalk, when his minutes go up in 6.0 value, Ayton's going to be in just about every lineup, and he should be. That's just going to be a good play. So in other words, you would pay up in these other spots maybe to be contrarian in tournaments. But for cash games, you're probably going to be eating a lot of Ayton. Nothing wrong with that. That's how the game's played. It's how the game's won. We're going to sort by value here really, really quick. We're going to bring some of those guys up to the top. We're going to make sure that they're projected for around 20 points or so. Make sure they're getting some minutes. And we're going to look at these top 5 or 6 guys. Josh Jackson, Okobo, Bridges, Ayton, Evans, Ariza. These are the guys that are going to be staples in your lineup tonight. Look at their prices too. Nobody in there at 8,000, 9,000. So everybody is affordable. You may pick a couple of them. You may figure out where the chalk is going to go, and you may counteract it in GPPs by pivoting against it a little bit. That's all very, very fine and dandy. But that's how quickly you can chop up a player pool. If you take the top 5 or so out of each position in the N1 rating system, write them down on a piece of paper, come in here and start taking a note on who the higher value plays are. You can even come over here, sort your Fanduel salary out by 6,000 and less, and put those guys on the list that aren't being duplicated, that aren't already on the point guard list, that aren't already on your shooting guard list. You've got yourself a quick pool of 25 to 35 players that you can build lineups around that are in the best of the best positions for NBA today. Now, it's up to you to dig further. It's up to you to dive into who's paced up today. If I sort that by descending and bring all of the high-paced teams to the forefront, then I can start running people off of these offenses. 5.5 here is very, very important. 2.5, okay, maybe an extra couple of possessions. So not a lot, but the 5.5 team, who's that end up being? Phoenix. Phoenix is paced way, way, way up. We can also come over here, what we showed you yesterday, by sorting by who hits 5x most often. Sort that one by descending. And now we can start looking for those ceiling plays. 43% of the time, Evan Fournier hits 6x. Now, here's the thing. This is what I wasn't showing you yesterday. Because remember yesterday we keyed in on Anthony Davis. And yesterday I showed you that Anthony Davis hits 5x a lot, but doesn't have 6x in him a lot. He can still hit it, but he doesn't have it a lot because his salary is so damn high. It's so much harder to jump from 56 points to 62, 63 points or so. He's usually going to be between that 50 something, 56 and about 60. He's very consistent in that area, and he's a great cash game play because of that. At that price, you're buying a ton of raw points, and you're buying very consistent raw points if you feel like you can dodge the injury bug that plagues Anthony Davis. But that said, take a look at today. 56% of the time, top of the list, Evan Fournier is hitting 5x. That's a good value number. That means more than half the time he's bringing at least base value for, not for your cash games, but for your lineup in general. But look over there at the 6x number. 43% of the time. That's a huge number. You see a 41% down here. You see a lot. We saw some 30s yesterday, but this 43%, what I'm getting at is why that number is so important. The 6x, 43% of the time. Yes, we all want a player who can hit 6x, even 7x and whatnot. But what you don't realize is what this is telling us. The ability to hit 6x that often tells me how underpriced he is. How much value is built into his price, given the production that he's giving on a nightly basis. Evan Fournier has not rung up on the and one list that I saw in that quick brief scan that I did, but he's going in a crap load of my lineups tonight unless I find other information telling me that tonight is going to be one of the 60% of the times he doesn't hit 6x and one of the 50 or 45% of the times he doesn't hit 5x. And even at that, at $5,200 on Fanduel, the dude is remarkably affordable. So he's not going to kill me if he only gets 4x or 5x. I didn't spend a whole heck of a lot on him anyway. Fournier is going to be in a ton of my lineups, and I hope he slides into the contrarian side of things rather than the chalk side of things, because that is almost a 6x lock. I'm not calling it a 6x lock. More than half the time it fails, but it happens more often than anybody else on this list tonight. And down here at 41%, Bjelica, however you'd pronounce his name. Same thing, 40% of the time. Now he's hitting 22 points. He's hitting 5x 50 half the time, 50% of the time. However, he's hitting 6x 40% of the time. When he hits 5x, he generally hits 6. I know he's only got 6 points, 4 points to go, but that brings value at 4,400. So 4,400 for Bjelica and 5,200 for Fournier. Those might be my two, core anchors in my system. And if they both hit 6x tonight, then I can use somebody else as a silly drop score and pay up in a bunch of other positions. It looks like tonight's a pretty value-loaded night, but I can pay up and go grab some other guys that might go off, and I don't necessarily need to pay. That's the other thing I will do, and then we'll move on from NBA. But the one thing that I like looking at when it comes to salaries, those bigger salaries, that's why it's not a linear projection. Everybody talks 5x, 6x, 7x, whatever, but it's not realistic for an $11,000 guy to hit 8x. Is it possible? Sure, it's happened before, but it's not possible. It's much, much easier for a guy at 4,000 to hit 8x. Happens a lot more often. So what we're looking at is not a linear situation when it comes to guys that help you. When you get expensive, you can live with less than 5x. You can live with 4.5x. You can live with some of those numbers as long as your lower price guys go above 5x and go to 6x and whatnot. And in often cases, it's not even the top end of tier one, the Russell Westbrooks, Kevin Durant's, Anthony Davis's, the Giannis. Those guys are not necessarily the guys you're looking for to really win you GPPs. You can look for them on raw nights when they hit 80 and 90 points, yes. But generally speaking, they're not the ones. The ones that you need to be looking at are the guys that are right at the bottom end of tier one and almost into tier two. Those guys might be, let's sort by salary here, and let's see if we can't pull a couple of these guys up to the top. Lillard, Vucevic, Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. It's going to be like these types of guys. There's a lot of $10,000 and $11,000 guys. You get down in the lower 9s, upper 8s, down in this range, pick a night when, Levine and DeRozan have the ability to go for 6, 7x in their salaries, whereas Anthony Davis does not have the ability to go for 7x anymore. So if you get a couple of those guys that have the room in their side, the floor is there. They're consistent, fairly consistent players, but yet their price hasn't risen to such a level that it hampers their ability to really go off on a multiplier type of analysis. And so I love rostering these upper tier 2, lower tier 1 type guys because they have the consistency in a lot of cases of a stud, but they're still underpriced. If I can catch them, because they're maybe a little bit more inconsistent than those studs. So if I can catch them on a good matchup, if I can catch them on a night where their price didn't adjust for their production, those guys go into my lineups as my bigger priced guys because I'll put 2 or 3 of them in my lineup because a couple of them can still go off for that 60, 70 points. You know, where was Drew Holiday last night? He wasn't some $11,000 player, right? He went off. Those are the kind of guys that really make your night because they've got room in their salary to really still hit that 6 and 7x consistently, whereas Anthony Davis has been priced out of 6x and 7x unless he truly has one of his more rare nights where he really, really goes off and breaks a slate. Does it make sense? It's just going to happen more often with these guys. And when I'm looking for multipliers, I would spend on these guys and then bring the bottom of my lineup up to the Fourniers and to the 52, 5,300 guys instead of the $3,500 punt. Now I know I'm still going to want one of those guys on FanDuel as a drop score candidate, but it tends to lend me towards a more balanced build, and a more balanced build gives me more players that have room to hit 6 and 7x than just a couple of guys, and it helps me hit cash games better. It helps me hit triple ups better. It helps me hit 10-man leagues better. And that's where 80% of my budget goes. If you hear me preach about that all the time, the majority of my budget's going towards those cash games, and that's what's building the bankroll. And then some of the little side shots, that's when I'll take a top $2 GPP or a $5 on a lineup in a single entry GPP or something like that out of my $25 $40 lineup, something like that, where 30, 40 of my dollars is going over here to cash games, and the remaining $5 is going into 5 individual dollar lineups, or it's going into a couple of twos and a $3 multi-entry, maybe, on a night when I've got 2 or 3 entries left over. Those are the types of things I play around with GPPs. Maybe it's one lineup, maybe it's 5 lineups, maybe it's a few, whatever. But the bulk of my money is sitting over to the cash side of head-to-heads, 50-50s, triple ups, things like that, where I can grow a steady bankroll and more than enough weighted over on that side of things so that even if all of my GPP lineups fail, my main cash lineup does well, I still profit on the night. Okay? That makes sense. That's stuff we talk about at DFSArmy.com. That's why you need to become, honestly, a member. Get in there. We can talk about this back and forth, and we can get your lineup and your allocation straightened out to the point where you start streamlining. If you follow me on Twitter, you start seeing guys talking about ladders and how it's working for them. It's been working for 3 years. Get in here. Don't completely miss the party. Let's jump over to NHL, and then we'll blow through a player pool here using the research station, a little bit of other tools around the industry to kind of help put us all in one page, all on the same page. I go to NHL.com right now. You go over to stats, come down here to team stats. I'm just showing you how to do this. I'm not going to do the work for you. You got to go game by game here, and you got to open this up. I go back a month. What's this, December 4th? So I go to sum results, SUM, run report. And now what I've got is the last month's worth of scoring. Yeah, some people have played 13, 12 games. Some have played 15, whatevs. I'm looking for who scored the most goals. I would love it if this was an average goals per game, but it's not, so it is what it is. And I see that Tampa Bay's number 1, Ottawa 2, Toronto 3, Vegas 4, Winnipeg 5, Washington 6. Are any of these teams playing tonight? Oh my God, all of them. Right? Might be a big scoring night. But I'm going to write all these guys down next to their names. I've got Winnipeg versus New York Islanders, Boston versus Florida, Calgary versus Columbus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm writing down things like Winnipeg is the 5th overall scoring team on the night. And who was number 6? If I look, Washington was number 6. I've got them written down. I looked at my sheet. I didn't look at this piece of paper in front of you. I looked at my own sheet to see Washington playing Vegas. Washington's the 6th most scoring team right now in the league. And I go over here and I write them all the way down to the bottom, all the way down in here. LA and Carolina. LA is playing tonight, 30th ranked offense in the last month. Not good. No bueno. Goals against: Jersey, Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver. We don't have a lot of the really bad defenses playing tonight. Well, we've got, it looks like the closest one we have is Florida at number 5. That's okay, but they're playing Boston, who's the 25th rated offense, 25th scoring offense, going up against the 5th softest defense. That's okay for Boston, and Boston can explode on any given night, but they're not doing it right now. I don't consider that much of a bump that makes me think they're suddenly going to dominate the slate. I mean, they may, instead of scoring 2 goals, they may score 3. They're not going to all of a sudden score 8 just because they're going up against a soft defense, because they're not scoring themselves. Logically speaking, of course, there are scenarios where that can happen. It can happen any night in hockey. But generally speaking, no. So when I look down that list, I'm targeting teams like Winnipeg, 5th most scoring offense, going against the New York Islanders, 14th most, or weakest defense, tells me that's a middling defense and a good scoring offense. That's a positive bump. I look at Colorado, 8th most scoring, going against 10th weakest in Pittsburgh. Colorado gets a little bit of a bump, especially that top line. Colorado top line's pricey, but there you go. I don't like them necessarily on the road, but whatever. I look at Ottawa, 2nd most scoring offense, going up against the 3rd weakest defense in Montreal over the last month. That tells me Ottawa's in a phenomenal spot tonight, and they're going to get overlooked. They should score goals. Now, I don't know how many, but they should score goals. And then you look at Montreal, their opponent, 14th most scoring offense, going against the 2nd softest defense in Ottawa, and that also gets a bump. There's a major shootout warning on that Ottawa-Montreal game tonight. Both defenses have been playing horrible. They've been allowing tons of goals. And with 2 offenses, one middling in Montreal and one top echelon in Ottawa, you've got the makings for some fireworks. I'd be targeting those 2 games. If you follow my tweets, you'll find out my top 3 offenses tonight. Montreal and Ottawa are 2 of them. Tampa Bay Lightning, top scoring offense on the league, going up against 27th softest, or basically about 4th or 5th toughest defense right now in Detroit. Who'd have thought? But I mean, Detroit's all the way down here at 27th. So Detroit is suppressing goals right now. That knocks a little bit of the edge off of Tampa Bay and tells me Tampa Bay may be a little overpriced for the matchup. Now, they may still score 4 goals tonight, because in a lot of times they can be matchup proof when they're that hot. But as a general logical rule, I'm looking towards, maybe they shouldn't score as many goals as they typically would. Maybe people are going to over-evaluate them, thinking Detroit still sucks. Maybe that's a good opportunity for me to steer clear of that offense tonight. Hope my numbers come to fruition, and their defense or their offense isn't quite as powerful tonight, and therefore I can dodge that bullet everybody else overpaid for, and I can get into a little better scenario somewhere else. That's how you use these numbers when you're thinking through a slate. What is the result? What do people typically do? What do people typically roster? What do people typically look for in an offense? And is there some kind of an anomaly or something in the numbers? Maybe it's the last couple of weeks. Maybe it's the last month. Something that maybe makes us go, maybe not tonight. So while I like Tampa Bay as an offense, we'll see. There's an indicator there that they might not score like they usually do. I'm not saying they're going to get shut out. Don't get me wrong. Top scoring offense in the league. Toronto, 3rd highest scoring offense in the league, going against Buffalo, 21st toughest defense, or 21st softest defense, makes them about 9th toughest, which means they're okay. They're kind of a good defense. Been giving up goals lately because I've seen them ranked at 25th, 26th. So they've been giving up a few goals lately. They're starting to come up. They're starting to give up a few more goals. That may be some kind of regression that Toronto can capitalize on. And if you think that's overthinking it, that's about as far as I go, man. But I look at Detroit scoring the 20th most, going against the 9th softest in Tampa Bay. Buffalo, 15th most, going against 29th softest in Toronto, or really 2nd or 3rd toughest. People are not scoring goals on Toronto right now. And Buffalo's kind of middle of the road. Buffalo's also on a back-to-back night where they came out of Nashville and played a pretty tough game there to come back home to play Tampa Bay, who's on rest when Buffalo is not. That's another feather in the tired cap for Toronto. I like Toronto tonight quite a bit. In fact, I like them so much, I marked down to make sure that Freddie Anderson's starting in goal tonight. If Freddie Anderson's starting in goal tonight, I really like him. And I like him as the goalie to get the win because I think that there's a high chance that Buffalo comes out a little bit flat. Washington 6th most going against 16th softest. That's not much of a bump. Vegas 4th most going against Washington, 23rd softest. That is a tougher defense right now. And Vegas is scoring a lot of goals. It makes me kind of go, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Minnesota 11th most in goals over the last month. Vancouver giving up 4th most. That's a good positive bump from Minnesota. They're my 3rd favorite team tonight. So if I had to mark them down, and Arizona and LA Kings game later tonight, whatever. I'm not even, if it erupts for 6-4, it's not going to probably carry the ownership inside it to kill me anyway. So I'm not really all that worried about it. I don't feel that there's enough chance for me to want to go capitalize on some kind of outlier game that blows up. But I certainly don't mind fading it because if it does blow up, the ownership will not be there to really damage me anyway. Not worried about it at all. Top 3 offenses on Ottawa, Montreal, Minnesota. Not necessarily in that order, just the first 3 names I saw on my list with the arrows next to them. 4th probably be Toronto. You know, now if I go looking at another source here, I will look at win percentages for goalies, but I will look at this goalie goals scored, implied team total out of Vegas. I'll kick it on to centers or something, so my list isn't quite as long. It's only 3 or 4 per team. But Ottawa is the number 1 offense out of Vegas this tonight. I'm sorry, Montreal, number 1 out of Vegas tonight. Pittsburgh 2, Minnesota 3. See, I don't have Montreal on my list. Montreal, actually I do, sorry. Montreal versus Ottawa was number 1 and number 2. 14th most going in, so that checks. Vegas likes them as well. That's a little bit of a bonus. I had it confused with Florida. Pittsburgh facing Colorado. That's very interesting because Pittsburgh's the 18th most scoring offense right now, facing Colorado 28th softest defense, meaning 3rd toughest. I don't like Pittsburgh as much. I think there's a chance Pittsburgh doesn't get the goals that Vegas is suggesting they are. I actually like Colorado a little bit better. 8th highest scoring offense going against 10th softest in Pittsburgh. That's a little better matchup to me. So I'd be keen on Colorado if I even get to them tonight. And then I look down here at Minnesota, and I already mentioned them, right? 4th is Toronto. 5th is Tampa Bay. I don't agree necessarily with Tampa Bay because Detroit's been playing tougher lately. I do like Toronto. So I would include them. I'd probably take Pittsburgh out of there. Montreal, Minnesota, Toronto. And then Ottawa is down the list a little ways. Vegas is probably a little overvalued. Winnipeg's fine. Columbus is fine. Ottawa is probably down in there somewhere too. Those are the teams that I'm going to want to key on. I've got number 1 out of Vegas is Montreal. Number 2 is Pittsburgh. Don't like Pittsburgh as much. Number 3, Minnesota. I do like Minnesota. Number 4, Tampa Bay. Maybe, maybe not. Number 5, Vegas. Maybe, maybe not. Number 6, Winnipeg. Yes. 7, Columbus. Probably not. Calgary's allowing the fewest goals in the league over the last month. So when you look at those numbers, you can kind of say, I want a team that's scoring a lot going against a team that's giving up a lot. And if I can find those scenarios and Vegas agrees with me, then I'm really onto something here. If I like it better than Vegas, I'll put it in some tournaments. If Vegas likes it better than me, I may or may not even use it. I don't rely exclusively on Vegas. I look to Vegas as a guide, and I look to Vegas as a confidence booster for sure. So what we're going to do is dive into the research station here, look at the goalies, see where the percentage of win chance. Now, I haven't seen these yet. This is brand new to me. So I go to win chances and I sort by descending. And I see a 63% for Adin Hill up there in Arizona against LA. That's intriguing. 63% win chance. 58% Fleury. Pascal back up in Tampa Bay. It's still a 56% chance to win. That's pretty strong coming out of Vegas. So people are saying attack him because he's the backup. I'm not so sure. I might run him out there at 7,200 in a GPP type lineup and take the odds to win. Carey Price, Varlamov. Where's Toronto? Freddie Anderson, way down here. Only a 52% chance to win. Out of Vegas. I'm seeing signs that tell me Buffalo might be tired and they might have a better chance at winning than we think. That's just me, though. That's not as strong a play as if he was up here in the list. So I'll be looking through some of these guys, too. As a general rule, I'll take one of the cheaper guys with a big chance to win. That would be Adin Hill, of all people. I wouldn't have seen that one coming. Marc-Andre Fleury, you really want to attack Ovechkin with the goalie? I don't. You know, 8,400, 8,300 Hellebuck on the road. Freddie Anderson, I guess, on the road. And he's 9,300. It's pretty darn expensive. You might just throw Aiden Hill out there and run with it tonight. That might be the way to go. We'll talk more about that in Slack with our VIPs. Diving into a little bit of the numbers here. Remember, we slide over this way and we start writing down our player pool because we sort by FanDuel, DraftKings, whichever site you play. Same thing. But I sort by FanDuel numbers last 10 games, and then I'm going to come over here and start looking at the 5-game average. Remember, buy signals when the 5-game number is higher than the 10-game number. Okay? Let's go find some buy signals. So I'll cut it out, cut my teams down to who did I like? I liked Montreal. I liked Ottawa. Minnesota. And I'll throw some others in there just to make a little bigger player pool for you. Whether I use them or not, we'll see. But Vegas, Columbus. Oh, come on. Click me on. Got to let these numbers normalize before I can hold that control key down and start clicking around again. But there we go. Now, Columbus, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg. Okay, these are roughly the teams that were on that list. I mean, my 3 on there, Ottawa needs to go on there. Turn blue, baby. So these are the teams that I'm going to be largely looking at. Mostly I'm going to be focused on Montreal, Ottawa, Minnesota, Toronto. I'll take my chances with Toronto. Those are the kinds of teams I'll be looking at, but I'll throw some of these others in there because you're going to be interested in those too based on the way you do things. I'm going to start with defense. So I'm going to click that number, turn those guys. I don't care first line, second line, third line. I want producers, okay? I will tend to look for first line, top line guys. I will tend to look for a lot of power play time. But if a guy's hot right now, I want him. I may not do fourth line guys. It's hard for me to go all the way down to the fourth line. They don't get a lot of ice time. But if I've got a hot guy even on the third line, sometimes they do get minutes. So I'm looking at roughly, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. So somewhere down into here in the top 9. Let's look for numbers overnight. Look at them. They're all hot. Spurgeon, Morrissey, Suter, Theodore, probably not Colin Miller, probably not Petrie, but Treba for sure. Morgan Riley, always pretty cash safe. Seth Jones. Wow, Shea Weber. Now this is a short sample size. He just came back. Chabot's ticked up a little bit lately. Remember, he was under his 10-game numbers there for a while. He's back above them. Buy signal. Just below him is Matt Dumba, but 16.5 still pretty good. And being that I like Minnesota tonight, I'd probably still run Dumba out there. I'm going to come over this way. So I will make exceptions here and there. Dumba's on the 2-2, 5,800, starting to get up there. As long as he's under 6K, I'm probably okay with it. I like him down in the 5K range better, 5-1, 5-2, somewhere like that. Then I scroll over a little bit just to cross-check if you remember. Percentage of teams scoring, 31%. That's Chabot. 30%, Morgan Riley. Those are guys that if their numbers are resembling their averages, I'll take them because if that team's in a good spot and if that team's going to do a lot of scoring tonight, they're going to be a piece of it. So they're going to be a little bit pricey because it's not the beginning of the season where they were going under the radar. 5,700 for Chabot, 6,600 for Riley. I may start there, just load those 2 in at defense. They may be one-offs in their defenses. They may not. I may drop a Morgan Riley for a Matt Dumba and take a Kapanen or somebody like that, Kapanen or whatever, out of Toronto. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't done any building yet today. But now I'll kick over to my centers and I'll do the exact same thing. Scroll back over here and look for buy signals. That's what we ought to call it. We ought to just call it buyers and sellers. So we're running at about the 20s down to about 10. That drops off pretty quick tonight. Down into the 9s-ish from here. So 10 is hot. So Colin White's still a thing. Philip Denos still a thing. Brian Little still a thing. Look at this. I'd be off of Mikko Koivu. He was on our list a week or so ago. Look how far that number fell. William Karlsson, definitely still a thing. Boone Jenner, Cody Eakin. Look at how hot Eric Stahl is. There's your Minnesota guy right there. Off of Evgeny Malkin, of all people. Off. Way off. Way overpriced for that. Could he come out tonight and drop a hat trick? A natural hat trick? Of course. Odds are he's not gonna, though. We already don't really like the Pittsburgh spot, whereas Vegas does. And we already, that'll give you a chance to compare me to Vegas right there. I may get lucky tonight and may beat Vegas. Now, if we ran this slate 1,000 times, I probably don't beat Vegas. But I think tonight's one of those spots where Vegas might be wrong. And Malkin's showing me that the offense is running pretty cold anyway. Tavares, yes. Duquesne, yes. Austin Matthews, barely under his 10-game average. But remember how hot he got off to early in the season and he sat out quite a while for injury? 17's okay for his salary number. 25, Mark Scheifele, yes. Dubois, maybe. Dubois is not going to hold this 20-point average. He's typically not that kind of a player. But 16's fine, as long as he's not overpriced. Sidney Crosby, sure, yes. Right up there with his 22.6 game average over 10. Come over here. Let's look again for percentage of team scoring. Sidney Crosby, shocker. Scheifele, yes. Duquesne, sure. Malkin, look at this number. He should be factoring into more of their goals. He's running cold. This number won't change. He will come back up. And when he starts coming back up, hopefully it's driving his price down to a point where he becomes quite a value play for a week or so, and we can roster him 2, 3, 4 times in a row before we even need to think about getting off of him. And hopefully this buy signal, sell signal spots when it's happening. 33% for Max Domi, consideration, but he didn't make our list as being a buyer, being on the buy list. So I come down here and I look at Crosby, Dubois, 6,200. That's okay for him. Scheifele is up there a good bit. Matthews come down from the 9,000. Duquesne, Tavares. I'm looking for guys that are a little bit out of place that we mentioned as hot. You could run Dubois, you could run Duquesne out there. Looking for guys, Cody Eakin, Boone Jenner. Remember, we're off of Koivu. Brian Little. Keep running him out there at 4,900. That's how you find value in this game. And finding value in this game is the name of the game. It's not going to pan out a ton in hockey. It's a very volatile sport, but it's going to pan out more times than not compared to what other people are doing. Nobody's timing the market perfectly all the time. Don't let them lie to you. Same thing. Scrolling on over. I don't know what that NA is all about. Oops, went too far. So 24 for Line, 23 for Atkinson. Atkinson has significantly cooled off. Numbers are coming down. Line has not cooled off just yet. Marner is right on his average. Pacioretty's higher. Connor's come off his numbers a little bit. Hornquist is higher. Gensel's higher. I mean, you can just come down the list and just do what I'm doing. Look at all the wings. Look at the depth you have in the wings. So let's go look at who's overpriced, underpriced. A lot of these guys are running hot. A few of them are not. Dodge those. If you don't have access to this, become a VIP. You've heard the spiel. Looking down the list. Pacioretty, 75 or 6,600. Connor, we said we were off of. Hornquist, 6,200. 5,500 for Nylander. He just signed a new contract, right? 5,800 for Druin. Wasn't on the list. Riley Smith probably makes the list. Alex Tuck, 5,400. I would take Riley Smith over Alex Tuck right now. Down here, Andrew Shaw, I'd be looking him up as a value play. You need these value plays when you find them. 4,800. Sometimes it's only a 4,800 guy like a Brady Tkachuk. Sometimes it is a $3,700 guy like Andrew Shaw. So get Shaw in there. If Petrie was running hotter, you'd throw him in there with a Petrie. Montreal's in a good spot tonight. And you might take those two value plays and then run them up there with a Druin or somebody who's in a good spot who's a little bit pricier, and then get the hell out of that game. And you've got yourself stacked up at a cheap price, and then you can afford to go into Winnipeg or go into some of the more expensive teams if Pittsburgh was running hotter. Go into Columbus and pay for Panarin and Atkinson if they were running hot still, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Generally, that's what you're looking to do. You can take that value from somewhere that's in a very, very, very good spot tonight. It's going to be a little bit chalky, but then you pick the stud team out of that. Like if Dallas was playing, or some of the really, really expensive Colorado, they are playing. You want to go take a tournament shot on Colorado? Go get yourself. You can probably afford Bertanen, Landeskog, and McKinnon tonight if you play the value plays of Andrew Shaw and some of those guys. You might be able to get that in there and make sense of it. And if you can do that, and that Colorado does go off tonight, 4 goals, 5 goals, something like that, which would not be completely out of the realm of possibilities. They are a powerful offense. Then all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, with the numbers of not the implied scoring chance, but the percentage of team scoring over here, you've seen before Colorado, man, do that number one line just sucks up all the points. That's where it's concentrated. I prefer to wait for them to be in better spots, but if you want to take that shot in a GPP or something like that, be my guest. That's how you win the big money. That's how you do it. That part's not rocket science. What is, I guess, rocket science is maybe how to get your mind trained to thinking that way and spotting those types of things. When do we play big slates? When do we play small slates? What type of contests do we play on those slates? How do we start shifting our lineups? What am I building? Am I building a lineup that's taking a lot of risk? Am I building a lineup that's kind of flattened out? Should I run it in cash? Should I run it in GPPs? All of those things are things that we discuss inside DFS Army all the time. Those are the things that are going to make you a better player. That's why you need to invest in your own game. Come in here, become a VIP, use code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Hit that like and subscribe button down there at the bottom and the notification bell, and help me retweet my pinned tweet out there on Twitter, and you've got yourself a little bit of Chop Talk for today. NBA and NHL, December 4th, 2018. Let me see you start winning out there on those leaderboards. When you do, tag Chopadong, tag DFS Army, whatever it is you want to tag out there on Twitter. Share that winning lineup with me. I don't care if it's $4 or $400. I'll retweet it for you. I'll pass it around. I'll reply when I see it. But you got to tag me to make sure I see it. And I'd be happy to help you spread the word. Build a little bit of fame for yourself. Everybody likes bragging when they win. We all do. Be a winner today. Become a member. DFSArmy.com. I'm your buddy Chopadong, and I'm out of here. Take care, guys.